What's happening, everybody? Justin, Bridgewater's finest on YouTube, blockbuster_guy on Twitter, fueled as always by the great folks at Nerd Tees. We got a new blend to tell you about today, but we will get to that when the time comes. And welcome to week 15 of my weekly CFL football pick show for the 2018 CFL regular season and postseason. And wow, last week. So you notice it's kind of dark. It's almost foreboding in this room right now. I am the Inaritu of YouTube. I only ever film with natural light. And today we don't have a lot of it, so that's why I might look a little dark. But there's also a little bit of gloom and doom over the picks from last week. So, week 14, which was the final do's and don'ts week, I guess don't do that again because the picks were not good. Straight up, I missed all three of them. So I went 0-3 straight up. And when you go 0-3 straight up, it's pretty damn difficult to get anything against the spread. So I was also 0-3 against the spread. That has me 33-20 picking the games straight up. That's about 62%. Not where I want to be. Definitely want to be quite a bit higher than that. Against the spread, 27-26, 51%. Sure, it's on the happy side of par, but barely. Over-under, I did kind of salvage a little bit. I was 2-1 on the 3 games over-under, so that has me 28, 23, and 2 over-under, which is 53% plus the 2 pushes. That has us 88, 69, and 2 picking the CFL this season. That's 55%. I would like to be in total much closer to 60. Recap you on the standings here. We'll start in the East Division. Ottawa out front, 7-5 record, tops in the East, outscoring opponents 25-23. Hamilton, even record now at 6-6, outscoring opponents 28-25. Toronto and Montreal still each only have 3 wins. Toronto 3-8, being outscored 31-21. Montreal now 3-9, being outscored 31-17. In the West, the Stampeders have now opened up a 3-game lead once again. Calgary at 10-2, outscoring opponents 32-21. You've got Edmonton and Saskatchewan, who are both at 7-5. I give Edmonton the edge based on the scoring. Edmonton outscoring opponents 29-26. Saskatchewan, it's even, scoring 25, giving up 25. The BC Lions at 5-6 leapfrog Winnipeg. So BC 5-6. Scoring is even there as well, 24-24. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers now in the basement of the West Division with only 5 wins in 12 games, but still outscoring opponents 30-26. 4-game schedules from here on out in the CFL. Our Week 15 slate sees Montreal travel to Winnipeg, so battle of the basement dwellers there from the East and West Division. We got Edmonton in Ottawa to take on the REDBLACKS. We've got Saskatchewan in Toronto to take on the Argos, and the Hamilton Ticats travel to BC to take on the Lions. Let's start in Winnipeg, where the Blue Bombers are going to welcome in the Alouettes. Montreal losing last week after their 2 straight wins, and after everyone, myself included, planting the flag and saying Antonio Pipkin is the guy. Alouettes are 2-4 on the road this season, and they're coming off that loss 32-14 against the BC Lions. Even though Travis Lulay got injured, and we'll talk more about Lulay as the time comes, Montreal still drops that game. It was an absolute abject failure to protect the quarterback. I believe they allowed Pipkin to get sacked 7 times, and when you can't protect the quarterback, that leads to usually losing football games. And in this case, it led to losing the football game in the 4th quarter on a pair of Antonio Pipkin pick sixes. But when you're getting hit that much, no wonder. That's one of those final scores that doesn't quite tell the whole story of the game, because this was a close football game before those 2 pick sixes late in the game really blew the thing wide open. And that was due in part to the fact that Montreal kind of followed the do's and don'ts from the episode last week. They ran the ball fairly well, although they didn't run enough. They only ran the ball 18 times in that game. That's not enough carries. If you're Montreal, the key to winning any football game is pounding the football. So 18 carries, it's just not enough. You have to commit to the run game more than that. But what they did run, they ran very well, and they ran better than BC did. And they played discipline. They only took 6 penalties. So 6 penalties for Montreal, who is an undisciplined football team in general. 6 penalties is fine. But what that game against BC did prove is that Antonio Pipkin, from a mechanical perspective as a passing quarterback, he is not good enough mechanically to survive having poor protection. He's not like a Russell Wilson type. Noteworthy that it is Johnny Manziel time in Week 15. Manziel has been named the starting quarterback for this game. Two schools of thought on it. I don't really disagree with either one. You know, it probably is sending the wrong message to a young player like Pipkin that, okay, well, you know, we stuck with you until we lost, and then now we're going back to the other guy. Probably is a poor message. But at the same time, you kind of owe Johnny Manziel another shot because he didn't do anything to lose his spot to begin with. He got hurt. He got concussed. And in that second game, he played so much better than when they just threw him to the wolves without really knowing the offense. You might as well do it in this game after your young guy just got absolutely beaten up in a game that you were competitive in, but ultimately lost by a pretty decent score. So understand any outrage, but I think it's the right call. The Blue Bombers come into this game as head and shoulders the coldest team in the CFL. They've lost 4 consecutive games. Noteworthy that they are 3-3 at home. Winnipeg coming off that 5-point loss to Saskatchewan 32-27 in the Banjo Bowl in Week 13. 3 combined defensive touchdowns in that game, so it was a sloppy game offensively, really across the board. But for Winnipeg, I mean 5 interceptions between Nichols and Strevler. I feel like when you're talking about like Tampa Bay watching their Hard Knocks from a couple years ago, both kickers are missing kicks in practice? What do you mean both quarterbacks threw multiple interceptions? A game like that might have been the tipping point in a quarterback controversy and be enough to say, okay, we're making the change to the other guy. In this case, we're taking Nichols out and we're giving the ball to Strevler. Had the backup quarterback done any better than your starting quarterback? And he didn't. It was exactly the same. They both threw for 50%. I think Nichols threw for like 5 more yards, or maybe Strevler threw for 5 more yards. I think everybody knows how good this football team is in Winnipeg, but there's real reason to be concerned here about Andrew Harris. I don't know if he's still dealing with an injury or he's just beat up or whatever it is, but Andrew Harris lately has not been Andrew Harris. His last 2 games, first of all, he's only touched the ball 27 times, which seems like a lot, except when you think about a player like Andrew Harris, he should probably be touching the ball 20 times a game. 207 yards, okay, fine, but 158 of them came just rushing in 1 game. Plus, he's only scored 2 touchdowns combined in his last 6 games. He's not involved in the pass game whatsoever these last few weeks. I think he has 2 catches. So is there something wrong here? Are they phasing him out of the offense? What's the deal with Andrew Harris? Because clearly there's a deal. I made the statement about knowing how good Winnipeg is for a reason. A team this good shouldn't lose 5 straight games. You could make the argument that a team that good shouldn't have lost 4 straight games. But a team this good won't lose 5 straight games, and the Alouettes are the perfect remedy for that, especially a perfect remedy for Andrew Harris. I expect him to dominate in this game, do whatever he wants. I think Winnipeg rolls. I'm going to take the Blue Bombers, obviously, at home to beat the Alouettes. On the line here, we see our biggest line of the week, which is Winnipeg favored by 10.5 points at home. This is a Millhouse Sports Maxima Nabomba or something like that. It's his max bomb. He's 5 units on it. He's very, very, very confident. And I am too. I mean, look, double digits, it usually scares me off, but I realize the difference in competition here. I don't think Montreal's defense will have anything for what Winnipeg can do on the offensive side of the ball. So let's take that. Let's go Winnipeg minus 10.5. Total in the game is 52 points. It's worth noting Winnipeg is 8-3 on the over in their games so far this season. Most of the public and most of the experts are on the over on this one as well. That was my lean from the beginning, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to go over 52 points in Winnipeg, Montreal. Let's go to the nation's capital now, where the Red Blacks are going to welcome in Mike Riley and the Edmonton Eskimos. Both of these teams coming in off of wins. The Eskimos only 2-4 on the road this season, so don't exactly travel well. But they are coming off of a 48-42 victory over Calgary in Week 13, the Labor Day rematch. And they had to weather a really furious fourth quarter comeback in that football game. Calgary scored the last 14 points at least of the game. The defense for the Eskies remains a question. They gave up almost 600 yards of total offense in that game against Calgary. They're an opportunistic team on defense. They certainly were in that Calgary game. 3 interceptions of Bo Levi Mitchell. opportunity plus discipline tends to equal wins. So if they can keep doing that, even though the defense is questionable, if they can capitalize on the opportunities, I think they should be fine. Although also of concern for the Eskies is the fact that they've basically completely abandoned the run game. I realized that CJ Gable was dealing with an injury, so that's a great playmaker that they did not have on the field. Looks like CJ Gable will be returning for this football game. That only means good things for the Eskies offense. Ottawa just above 500 at home at 3-2 this season, coming off of that 5-point win over Saski last week. They rode a clean and efficient game from their quarterback, which is not very often they can say that about Trevor Harris this season. A clean and efficient game from him, and they neutralized Zach Collaros. Collaros had a really poor game, so they managed to win the quarterback battle in that game, and they rode that to a win. And when I talked about the do's and don'ts for Ottawa, apparently they must have been listening because they followed the plan. William Powell touched the ball 20 times. I would have liked to see a couple more, but you know what? 20 touches is fine. He turned those 20 touches into 155 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. What a shock. Maybe run your offense through your incredible running back. And once again, they had 4 receivers that had at least 4 catches. So not only were they funneling the offense through William Powell, but in the pass game, they were spreading things out. They were keeping the defense guessing, and they won a game because of it. And the Red Blacks' three-headed monster at wide receiver, you're talking about Brad Sinopoli, Deontay Spencer, and Greg Ellingson, just kept on rolling in that football game, man. 17 catches combined, 209 yards, and a Deontay Spencer touchdown catch. That is a really formidable 3 wide receiver combo, like a 1-2-3, that it might be the best one in the league. When you do a deep dive into the stats and the trends, there's a lot about this game that favors the Red Blacks. And that was really the way that I was leaning really late last night. But, I mean, Mike Riley, man, is the ultimate X factor in this league. Kind of the same way that a couple years ago, I referred to Aaron Rodgers as the fantasy football cheat code. Because I could be way down in a fantasy matchup and be like, yeah, but Rodgers hasn't played yet. And I'd wind up winning. And it's just like, okay, he's like the cheat code to this thing. And that's what Mike Riley is in the CFL. He is the ultimate X factor, the ultimate cheat code in the Canadian Football League. This might be going against my better judgment, and most of what I'm going to talk about with this game I feel like is kind of a coin flip. But I'm feeling Edmonton on the road here. I'm going to take the Eskies in Ottawa to hang a loss on the Red Blacks. Keep that East Division nice and competitive. On the line, the Red Blacks are 2.5-point dogs at home, so a very tight matchup on the line. We like Edmonton to win. 2.5 points is not too much to give, so let's take Edmonton minus the 2.5 points. Total in the game is 54, and this is like the ultimate coin flip for me. Edmonton is 6-5-1 over-under this season. Boy, it's going to be really tight, but I think Ottawa's going to score plenty of points, and I think Edmonton just scores a couple more. So why don't we take the over in that one? We'll go over 54 points in Edmonton, Ottawa. Take this opportunity now at the midway point of the picks to pump the tires of our good friends at NerdTees. NerdTees.ca. Use that promo code BWFinest. Going to save yourself 15% at checkout, just like I did a couple weeks ago. If you're in Canada, free shipping on any order over $50, which is tremendous. If you're American, little click of a button, boom, all of a sudden all the prices are in US dollars. You get a great conversion on the US dollar. Obviously, that's the way economics works. Today's blend is a new one, like I kind of plugged at the beginning of the show, Japanese Orange Cooler. And when I opened this bag, I was just hit with this like great citrusy smell. Like it was great. It was like somebody cracked open an air freshener. It was so good. And then once I actually brewed it, took a taste, really nice, smooth orange tea flavor. It uses a very specific type of Japanese green tea. Got orange pieces, tangerine, got some lemongrass in there, got some carrot. That's right, my tea's got carrots in it. What of it? Christmas is coming up, folks. NerdTees.ca. Use that promo code BWFinest. Save yourself some money. Find yourself or find a loved one something to love. You'll do it on NerdTees. We're going to stay in Ontario now as the Roughriders travel to Toronto to take on the Argos. Both of these teams coming into this game off of at least one loss. Toronto has a few more than one in a row, but we will start with Saski. They lost in week 13. They are 3-2 on the road, so they do have an above 500 road record, which usually means at least they're a decent team on the road. Saski coming off that aforementioned 30-25 loss to Ottawa last week. Zach Collaros threw 2 interceptions. I think he was like under 35% passing or something like that. A real lack of quarterback pressure as well. Like Saski lives and dies. Charleston Hughes lives and dies with pressuring the quarterback, sacking the quarterback. They really did not pressure Trevor Harris much at all in that football game. The Roughriders weren't beaten by bad discipline. At the very least, they did not beat themselves. But they were definitely caught on the wrong side of quarterback mediocrity. When I talked about that game, Saski and Ottawa, I was like, look, take advantage of the fact that Trevor Harris is mediocre. Well, Trevor Harris was not mediocre in that game. Unfortunately, Zach Collaros was. Of note for the Roughriders, and we've talked about this guy before, Kyron Moore, who is like a 20, I think just turned 22. Moore records his second punt return touchdown in the last 3 weeks. And if you look at the stats, he is also the Roughriders' best deep ball threat. On his only 9 catches so far this year, but on his 9 catches, he's averaging 18.1 yards per game. That leads the team, and it's well inside the top 10 across the CFL. So this is a kid that is a weapon, not only on special teams, but can be a weapon in the pass game. If he develops some more rapport with Zach Collaros, that could be deadly. Argos come into this game losers of 3 straight games, but they are 500 at home, 3 wins in their 6 home games, coming off of an 11-point loss to Hamilton back in week 13. In that game, noteworthy, Toronto did find scoring across all 4 quarters, which is good. They had balanced scoring in terms of at least the time. Hamilton just had a little bit more. And that's really where the conversation needs to center when you're talking about the Argos. If you look at the second half of their last 2 games, now granted those were both games against Hamilton, who has a good offense, but if you look at just the second half of those 2 games, 3 of those 4 quarters, the Argos have given up double digits in points. So in the second half, they're pretty much averaging like a 40-point pace against. Seems redundant to say, hey, the defense needs to play better when you're like the worst scoring defense in the CFL, or at least the second worst. Sounds redundant, but it is. The defense is the one that needs to step up. Toronto can score points, but they're just not scoring as many as the defense is giving up. So it's the defense that desperately needs to step up. But luckily for the Argos, on the offensive side, it looks like maybe they found another playmaker here. Armonte Edwards, who is a wide receiver with them, has 2 100-yard-plus games in the last 3, and those games each included a touchdown. He is emerging as a nice complementary piece to S.J. Green in the passing game. More weapons for McLeod Bethel-Thompson. That's a good thing for the Argos offense. Then you look at the defense. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about this for the Roughriders. Zach Collaros needs to be better. He needs to play better football, and he's going to have every opportunity to do so against what is basically the second worst secondary in the CFL. Collaros' last 4 games, he's only thrown for 800 yards exactly, which is interesting. So 200 yards a game. He's thrown 3 touchdowns, but he's thrown 5 picks. You can't throw picks against the Argos. The secondary's not that good. Other teams, fine, I get it, but the secondary's not that good. So you got to cut those interceptions out. Collaros has to play better. I think Collaros will play better. I'm on Saski here. I'm going to take the Roughriders as just top to bottom the better football team. I'm going to take them in Toronto to beat the Argos. On the line, the Roughriders are favored by 3 points on the road, makes Toronto 3-point dogs at home. Typically, that's a line that I look at like, oh, they're 3-point dogs exactly at home. Maybe I should be on that. But it's only a field goal. It doesn't feel like that much to give. They are the better football team. I think the defense steps up in this one for Saski. So at 3 points, it's not too much. I'm going to lay those. I'm going to take Saski minus 3 points. Total in the game is 51 points. This is another coin flip. It's an absolute gut feeling for me. I think it goes over. Saski's gone over in 7 of their 12 games so far this season. It's absolutely a gut feeling. It's a really good number. I think the final score is going to be somewhere around this number, but I'm going to lean on my over. We're going to go over 51 points in Toronto Saski. And the last game we're going to look at sees the Hamilton Tiger Cats travel to the BC Lions in BC. Hamilton, losers in their last outing. They lost to Calgary. They're an average road team. They're pretty decent. They're quote-unquote, again, doing their job on the road. They're 3-3. That game against Calgary was a 43-28 decision in the wrong direction if you're a Ticats fan, but that was a one-point game at the half. Not only was it a one-point game at the half, Hamilton led this football game by, I think it was 5, late in the third quarter, about 6 minutes left in the third. What might be worse for Hamilton is not only did Calgary take off, Hamilton's offense completely disappeared. For the Ticats, I'm not going to say you lost the game because you did the exact opposite of what I told you to do, but what I am going to tell you is you did the exact opposite of what I told you to do, and you lost the game. Only 11 touches in this football game for Alex Green. That is not force feeding. I specifically used the term force feed Alex Green, and they basically did the opposite of that. Now, I get it. You're looking at the final score and you're saying, well, I mean, they lost by 15 points, so when you're down by 2 scores, you don't really run the ball. Granted, but even if all of Alex Green's touches came while Hamilton was either tied or leading this game, even if all the touches came then, it was still only on pace for about 15 to 16 touches, which is what they've been giving him now anyway. He's one of your most dynamic offensive players. Use him. Hamilton also allowed 4 sacks in that football game, and they recorded exactly 0. Despite the slight edge in time of possession for the Ticats, they absolutely got run over in this football game. Calgary recording 130 yards rushing on 21 combined carries, 1 rushing touchdown in that game. And look, Hamilton just generated absolutely 0 pressure on Bo Levi Mitchell. I said, you got to pressure this guy. You got to see if there's something to that knee injury. And that's just another thing to throw on top of the laundry list of things that they did not do in that football game. BC Lions come into this one winners of 2 straight games and have actually won 4 of their 5 games at home. They've been a very good home team this season. Lions coming off that 32-14 win over Montreal. I believe that game was in Montreal, recording a monstrous 7 sacks on Antonio Pipkin, combined with an absolute ball hawk defense like we talked about, 2 pick sixes in the fourth quarter. The Lions survived the run game because, again, Montreal wasn't quite committed to it as much as I thought they should have been. They survived the run game. They pressured the quarterback. They forced Pipkin to make those mistakes. The opportunities that I stated in the video is like, look, if you pressure this kid, there's going to be opportunities in the secondary. They were patient. They pressured him. They found those opportunities. They turned them directly into points late in that football game. What was not good stuff is the fact that Travis Lulay got injured in that game, a separated shoulder. They are estimating he will be out for 4 to 6 weeks. They did not put him on IR, and the plan is for him to return before the end of the season. This is going to be Jonathon Jennings' football team moving forward for at least the next month. Jennings is above 500 as the Lions' primary quarterback this season. He's 3-2, but those 3 wins came against Montreal twice and Ottawa. Ottawa's a quality win. Montreal, not so much. Despite what I think is a severe downgrade at the quarterback position for the Lions going from Lulay back to Jennings, what BC can do in this game and what BC can dominate in this game is the line of scrimmage. BC has now recorded the most sacks in the CFL. I realize that that's skewed because they had 7 last week. Hamilton allows the 2nd most sacks in the CFL. They're not protecting their quarterback overly well. BC has to do the exact same thing that they did with Montreal last week. They have to pressure the quarterback, hit the quarterback, force Masoli to make some bad throws. God, we saw that in week 1. Masoli basically threw the game away in week 1. He was pressured out of the pocket, made a bad throw. It was an interception, and it ended the game. You got to ride that really good Lions secondary that is even better at home. I think they can do that, and I think they can win this football game on defense. So let's take the BC Lions at home as, I guess, the only underdog play I'm taking this week. Take the Lions at home to beat Hamilton. On the line, the BC Lions are 2.5-point dogs at home, so obviously we like BC to win, so I love taking BC plus 2.5. That is a prime teaser candidate if you like your CFL teasers. Total in the game is 50.5 points, and this is also the only total this week that I think stays under. These 2 teams combined have only gone over 9 times in 23 combined games. They're skewing towards the under. It's a defensive-minded football team that is going to win this game on defense, so we're going to stay under on this one, under 50.5 points. All right, folks, those are your picks in Week 15 CFL action. We'll go over them here with you one more time. I got Winnipeg at home beating Montreal. I'm also hammering Winnipeg. I got them covering the 10.5 points on the line with the game going over 52. I've got Edmonton on the road in Ottawa beating the REDBLACKS. I like Edmonton to cover the -2.5 against the spread in a game that goes over 54 points. I've got Saski on the road in Toronto, Roughriders over the Argonauts. I like Saskatchewan to cover the -3 against the spread in a game that goes over 51 points. And in the week finale, I've got the BC Lions at home beating the Hamilton Tiger Cats. I like BC to cover +2.5 against the spread in a game that stays under 50.5 points. We're looking for a turnaround week. I'm feeling the turnaround week this week. I don't know. I feel it in my bones. I feel like we're going to have a good week this week. That's it for me, Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter, fueled as always by the great folks at NerdTees, nerdtees.ca, promo code BWFinest. Save 15% and find something to love. Enjoy the games in Week 15. I hope you enjoyed the NFL Week 3 video as well. We will see you again for NFL Week 4 as well as Week 16 of CFL action. We're getting close to these playoffs, kids.